Why We Bleep is sponsored by Signal Sounds. Well, I've been stood at this bus stop since 1983. It's taken that long for the Lord God Almighty's greatest crop of synthesizers ever, that would be the ones from the Roland Corporation in the early 80s, to be bettered. We've had decades of monosynth after monosynth after monosynth. Finally, we get 40,000 polysynths all delivered at once. I've got the Arturia Polybrute 12. 12 voices of brutish glory, despite the fact that I don't have 12 fingers. The Melbourne Instruments Delia with motorised knobs solves the issue of knowing which one to turn because I don't have to turn any of them anymore. And finally, the Oberheim TE05 to do away with that awful sequential sound. I'm only joking, bloody love the sequential sound. And finally, after 40 years, the Udio Super 8. By any other name, a Jupiter 8. Should I spend £35,000 on a Jupiter 8? Or should I spend £3 on a Super 8? Tricky. I'd almost have enough money left for the bus fare. Oh, bus is here. It'll take me an hour and a half to get all of this stuff on the luggage rack. So if you've been standing at a bus stop since 1983 and are finally ready to buy a polysynth again, visit signalsounds.com. That's signalsounds.com. Why We Bleep is also sponsored by thonk.co.uk. Steve from Thonk wanted me to tell you that there's this little company called Befaco who are releasing this little module called the Onoy. That would be the module that we're going to talk about in this podcast, and an amazing, complete ambient synthesizer with a looper, oscillators, a filter, a resonator, audio inputs, and like a delay line and ambience that just is like a complete ambient modular synthesizer in one bijou 30 HP panel. The Onoy is not out yet in DIY form, but Thonk will be selling a kit, and you can go to the website, we'll link it below. If you just look for Befaco, search for Befaco on the Thonk site, you can join the waitlist to be informed when Onoy kits are available. They are coming in summer. Apparently, second week of July was fated, but you know, these things may change. But if you're interested in building an Onoy, this kind of amazing, wonderful, complete ambient, you know, you can just make all the textures for your techno set or your entire ambient set in this one thing, you will be able to build it as a kit, and you can join the wait list and be notified when it's available to nab a kit. So visit thonk.co.uk and search for Befaco. Thonk! Why? Hi, Bob. I speak to you with another episode of this wonderful podcast, Why We Bleep. Yes, this month we're talking to Manu Retamero of Befaco, one of the most wonderful and lovely people in all of the industry. If you have met Manu or seen him speak, he's that wonderfully funny, risible Spanish man who is the kind of spokesperson of Befaco, but as we learn in the podcast, he was an enthusiast too, a person who was just interested in synths and technology and got to know I think it was, assume it was called Befaco at the time, but got to know this ragtag bunch of people putting on workshops where you would build synthesizer kits in Barcelona. And from this, we get a story of a man, a IT nerd, who becomes involved in this venture And in this conversation, we're talking initially about the state of Eurorack. This was recorded just before we all went to Superbooth. I'll talk a bit about Superbooth after the podcast. And so it was a chance to basically say or ask, how are you? Things are hard. Sales are not what they used to be. People are tightening their belts, understandably. And that just makes it harder if your income is dependent on people buying bits and bobs. But it's interesting because that whole discussion is something we really try to get into a bit. I said bit, because how much can you really fight capitalism when you're amongst it? But it is a question. How do you be sustainable as a company, bringing out products and mindful of the fact that we probably already have enough stuff? That is a question. It's really hard. And it's obviously, it's a thing. You know, I make videos that promote gear and tell people why something is interesting, and Manu's making the gear and doing the same thing. And so it's something I think about. I think ultimately there's very little of it in the grand scheme of the matter compared to other industries. This industry is tiny. And I think the devices are fascinating, and the people who make the devices are fascinating too. So I will just allow this to begin and remind you, if you're enjoying Why We Bleep, please consider sponsoring on Patreon, patreon.com/MyLaMelodies, and we'll talk more after. Let's chat with Manu Retamero of Befaco. Thank you. I appreciate you sparing time right now, because currently, when we're recording this, it's like the week of Superbooth. And yes. I assume for being a manufacturer that basically the days before Superbooth are like a hellscape, a flurry, insanity. You're like finishing prototypes. You're like just throwing resistors onto like PCBs and praying. What talk me through this time for you? What is it like?
It's even worse. It's even worse because we just released MIDI Theme 2,
yes,
like 1 week ago. So we are getting all the initial emails. What the fuck is this? The firmware is buggy. What about this? What about that? Yesterday I was working and trying to fix things, while in parallel we are preparing the new big monster, the Onoy. The Onoy, yeah, like this big monster of synth ambient drone thing. It has a super saw and assigned sound generators. Then you have an audio input, then an effects and a looper, and then an effect section.
Yeah.
And the nice thing is that the looper can loop either the input or the post after everything, so you can be doing over dubbing. And
you've finished this, and then you're supporting the modules that you've already released, and you've already got this huge sort of schedule of. I know you're busy. I know you have lots of modules that you're bringing out all the time. I don't know how you do it.
Brute force. Yeah, brute force. In a way, it's inside of the Befaco core. We have these things like designing modules. It's the way of life. It's like, if you ask Conan, what's the meaning of life? Designing modules and releasing them. Not like that, but it's like, what can we do? What can we do? It's what we like to do, and that's what we do. It's three main heads in Befaco, and the three of us, we like to design modules, so we keep on designing modules. And then we find ourselves with busy and tight schedules, and then with real life getting in the middle, and with pandemics and shit. So I think that we are trading happiness in one side and mental health in the other.
What I was going to ask you as the sort of follow-up to that is, what is it like to be a Eurorack manufacturer like right now?
Not fun.
Why?
Because this is a conversation we are having with other manufacturers. We got here for the synths. We got here for the joy of designing our own tools. It's what we like. It's what we will be doing in our weekends if we will not be running a business, which I think it's the main thing that changed. Click. When you're running a business. And then when you're running a business and then you have passed through like 3-4 very interesting years, wink, wink, it's not fun anymore. You know, it's you are having fun and then you are happy because the whole environment is super cool. Manufacturers are super cool. Musicians are super cool. Users are super cool. Like, it's happy. And then you get one slap on your face. Bam! And then there is like this geopolitics shit. Things get murky on moving things. Bam! Then the stocks are weird and it's difficult to get things. Bam! And then like this pirates thing on the Red Sea, it's make bam! You know, and then customs start to get things, you know, like a country in the EU decides to go away. Bam! You know what I mean.
I do know what you mean. Yeah.
And then this conversation repeats over and over and again. Now in Superbooth that we will be having this week, it's something we kind of use it as a therapy group thing, where we meet and talk and say, for fuck's sake, what's this? Yeah, it helps.
Are you struggling to sell modules, or are you just producing less of them and, you know, less people are buying them, as well as you're struggling to produce them due to geopolitical everythings and supply chains, increased costs? It's helpful trying to understand, because people just don't know. People have no idea. They just see stuff arrives. They don't know that it's harder for you or that there's all of this stuff going on.
The situation that you see around is that prices are going up for basic things. Like you go to the supermarket and it's not fun anymore. You talk to your landlord, it's not fun anymore. You got a mortgage, it's not fun anymore. So you can feel that people are really taking care of their own business and taking care of their families and their thing. You can feel that. You can talk to shops. We all feel that. We came here for the modules and we keep on developing modules, although it's not super good. I have to say it's not bad.
Yeah.
But it could be better.
How big is Befaco?
Befaco, we are now 11 people.
But is that big for Euro? Do you consider yourself big?
I would say big enough.
Yeah. You don't want to get bigger, do you mean?
Yeah. The thing is that at some point we were focusing on growing. It's like, hey, let's go, let's grow. And then, bam, slap on your face. Oof. And then you need to let go people and, you know.
Yeah, that sucks.
But anyway, 11 people, I think it's big, considering that at the beginning, we were a bunch of nerds nerding out that were forced to learn the ways of the business.
Yeah.
And then suddenly you need to discover that you need to deal with people. And even if you're friendly, there are, you know, employee and employer ways, which is kind of difficult. So I will say it's hard, but then if you talk with other companies that are definitely bigger than us, not just on Eurorack, you can find companies which are like super established that maybe are 60 people, 50, 60 people. That's big.
Do you mean in the synth space? Not is there anyone in the Euro space? Yeah.
No. In the synth space, in Euro space, in terms of number of people working, I think that we are not one of the biggest, but maybe one of the ones with more employees.
Yeah. But yeah, okay.
I mean, we have like great examples, and in the end, it's not a matter of how many employees do you have. It's a matter of how popular your modules are, so people will like them, and then how efficient you are. Mutable Instruments, the most successful company that ever was on the Eurospace, was one person.
Yeah. Yeah, and it raises questions that, you know, there's a lot of kind of anti-capitalism sort of rhetoric and stuff I see online, which is, I'm sure, has always been the case, but I've kind of noticed it recently. And you notice, you think about the fact that this is a luxury hobby. As you say, people are like they're obviously reducing their spend on Eurorack because during a crisis when you're struggling to make rent and pay the bills, you don't really need another oscillator right now, probably.
Yeah.
We might, but you know,
yeah. Who needs a synth and drone super fancy voice?
But nice to have if you can afford it or sell some things. And I suppose it speaks to this thing of like the constant growth. That sense, and I've worked in companies. You know, I've worked in a number of different music technology companies over the last 20 odd years. I worked in this industry since like 2006. Every company has this thing where at the end of the year that, you know, the bosses want more money, you know, and I know that's naive to point out, but it's just a state. The goal is make more money this year than you did last year.
Yeah.
And, you know, we were talking about mutable instruments, and that person said that they were happy being on a level that they did not wish to grow. No. And it's an interesting question where companies, you must make a decision to be sort of sustainable. You know, there must be a way to be in a company and just sustain a good living for everyone involved and retain the joy of it, to not always feel that you need to grow. Or am I missing? I've never run, and this is also the point, is if you've never run a company, is what you've discovered. I read this like business book that got recommended. What's it? The E-Myth, which I think is a fairly famous one. But in short, what it talks about is people can be very passionate about a topic, but as soon as they start their own business doing the thing that they are passionate about, they learn that running a business is a completely different skill to being passionate about whatever you're passionate about. That unfortunately, you're going to have to learn to run a business, which sounds like that's what you were speaking to.
Yeah, exactly.
And I suppose it's just this thing of, is there a way to sustain? Do you feel you could sustain without this need for, do we need to grow? Do we need, what I would also say, sorry, this has turned into a bit of a rant, but is like, I also recognize that in the Eurorack space, we kind of need it. I think we sort of do need it to grow. You want new people to come in and to be excited and to buy into it because of that thing that the rising tide raises all ships. More people being into Eurorack, growth for this whole field of music technology will help companies like yours, and it helps everyone because it means it's sustainable. Do you feel that there's less people getting into Eurorack? Is that a thing? Or is it just that there's less people buying within that space? And can you keep going like this, or do you need to grow?
Well, the short answer is no. Again, no, this is a recurrent conversation with other fellow manufacturers where we are indeed passionate and do this for a need of doing this. And then when you find yourself that this is not fun anymore, it's like, for fuck's sake. I mean, this is not sustainable from a mental point of view. Well, you need to keep yourself healthy, or at least frisky and happy. You know, we are talking about like doing nice shit for the sake of it. I think that one of the lessons learned during all this process of slapping your face, pim pam, one side and the other, is realizing that running a business is something like that. And then if you hear to whatever it's around you, this kind of classical capitalist ways where you need to sustain a pace of growth all the time, that's not realistic. I mean, if we just get ourselves conceptual, growth is not infinite. It's like it's not like that. So balancing like this side of neo-capitalism, sustainability of a company from a capitalistic or economical point of view versus the happiness and the good ways. I think it's be happy with whatever you have. Just enjoy whatever you have and do not grow. That's from a nerd's point of view, getting into the business and realizing how harsh this thing is. Then regarding what's happening around us, something which is amazing and we love and we encourage, and it's being on the core of Befaco, is sharing. It's releasing information and enabling people around us to actually do whatever we are doing and helping them and showing why, because we are here because someone took the time to help us. I do believe that more people are getting into Eurorack and knowing this tool and instrument and using it, but also there is a lot of new manufacturers. There is loads and loads of new people stepping in, throwing ideas, giving their views. And so what I'm feeling is that there is some rebalancing in a way, or there are more people coming in, but there are more people offering things. So what we are seeing after all these slaps and now that in 2024 things are kind of coming back to normal, even if we get into the geopolitics conversation, it's a clusterfuck. But like everything, it's more or less getting to a status quo. You can feel that A, there are more people getting in. B, the people getting in are way more cautious because people are not going to throw money to you only because you have a pretty face and a funny Spanish accent. You know?
Whatever not.
More and more new people coming in. So I think we are going in a very healthy direction. I think that for sure there's going to be like huge monsters out there trying to fish on the big oceans. There's going to be then some middle ground fishes and a lot of small fishes going around, which I think it's going to be healthy. I think.
Yeah, I think I see that. Like, as you're saying that, I'm just thinking, no matter what, the Eurorack thing will not go away. There are too many modules out there and too many people who can find value in them that that the hobby will not die. And whenever there's a hobby, then we know that the barrier to creating modules is so very low. That's not to denigrate what you do. It just mean that it's easier to make a Eurorack module than it is to make a box that you have to get certified and not blow anyone up or emit radio waves. And
yeah, that's truth. It's if you go to big events and then speak to guitar pedals manufacturers. I remember this guy from Soya Instruments. When I met him, he said, "You Eurorack guys are like the cowboys of electronics. No, you come in here, do your things, not passing certifications, and here we are suffering with all the certifications." So it was funny. It was funny encounter, and that's true. It's luckily, yeah, it's easier.
You don't have to. You can just put a dumb thing in a dumb, just give it 12 volts.
Well, of course, no. There are auto certifications where you need to make sure that all your components are OHS lead-free, and luckily there is this thing that is called the auto certification, where you have a statement that you say, "Hey, listen, I'm doing things right. Even if I'm not going to a company that will certify my emissions," you say like,
Promise.
That's
interesting. That sounds like I was reading the Ultra Processed People book, where they talk about the certifications for like food in America, where it turns out that that's how processed food is done. It's auto certification. It's like, we're pretty sure that this incredibly weird process that we did that involved like bleaching and toxifying, putting toxic chemicals through these soya beans, we think it's fine. So it's okay for us to feed it to hundreds of thousands, if not millions of Americans every day.
Yeah, well,
what could possibly go wrong?
Yeah, but in the States, I think that this auto certification or like these statements, they will sue your ass like this. So it's kind of like in the case that they get into legal situations, in that situation it can be used like, "Hey, you were stating this, and we found out that that's bullshit."
By the way, Manu, what actually is officially your job title? Do you have a job title?
Befaco guy.
Oh yeah, like in Doom, you're the Doom guy. You're
exactly.
Guy.
Exactly.
Does that mean generalist? Does that mean that, or does the buck stop with you, or does the buck stop with someone else? I mean, I've only really met yourself and Diego from the company,
That you don't know Pascual. Pascual is
No.
always hiding in the shadows, designing modules nonstop. Befaco, it was 4 guys. One just left. Jano left us, abandoned us. So it was Pascual, Diego, and me, and we were the Befaco guys. I'm the nice guy, maybe.
You seem nice.
No,
Diego seems really nice as well. So
he's
I don't
super
know.
nice. He's super nice, but he's more grumpy. Leave me alone. He has strong ideas, strong opinions, and he's maybe our feng shui guy, I would say. No, he's designing panels, and he likes beautiful things, and he has ideas. He's a musician. He knows how an instrument works. I design modules, but I'm no musician. I do bleeps and blobs, noise and fart sounds, which is good. But at some hey, I have to talk
It brings
good
you
about
joy, and I'm happy for you.
I know. But you need to have some musical direction. So Diego gets more into the conceptual things, and he's very good at it. I'm here talking to you. It's going to be very difficult. You get Diego into this or making a video or things like that. And then Pascual, it's designing modules nonstop. We call it the Pascualizer. So it's like,
wow.
Yeah.
What's that process?
You fit this guy a front panel and a user manual, and you get a model.
Brilliant.
Like that. So it's okay. Then so the first it's like this opinionology status where we are having beers or on our terrace or on a plane, traveling and talking and having ideas, and then sketching a front panel, and then discussing features and doing, and Pascual is just there waiting. He says, you just give me a front panel and a user manual, and that's it. And then he leaves for a week, and then he comes back, okay, here, a model.
I love it.
Magic. He might be there on the office, and he's just shut up, not talking to anyone, replying to questions, or maybe he goes home, or he's from the south of Spain, like me. Maybe he goes to the south of Spain and spend there some times, and then he come back with a couple of models. Again, not coming back to what's my job position. So I think that it's like fitting in this three-headed monster thing, And so, maybe I'm more on talking with people, talking with shops, or deciding.
But Diego mans the stand as well. But I do see you at the stand, and I see you in the videos, and you need that. You do need that. It's interesting. And that book, the E-Myth book, it says, everyone's got to have clearly defined roles. But I mean, it sounds like as you say, you've found them organically.
Yes.
But is there any one person who comes up with module ideas? Where are ideas coming from? How do you get them?
Beers.
That's a great answer.
Plane trips, no? It's like, you cannot imagine how many times we got like this lady turning back and telling Diego and me, can you please shut up? in a very gentle way. No,
I don't know what you're talking about. You're talking too much about it.
Yes. No, it's conversations. It's someone coming to the office and saying, hey, this morning in the shower, I thought that we could do this and that. Or maybe it's not only coming from the three Befaco guys, maybe someone who is working with us. Everybody is musician and has some artistic background. So someone will say, what about this? And then the other one will say, what about that? And then like this strong opinions contests start. And then the ideas stay there floating. And then with the pass of time, maybe when we got to a different technological level, or maybe we find an IC, or suddenly we are working with a programmer that will enable that idea that we had many years ago. Do you remember like this clock module? Oh, maybe we could come to the clock module. For example, I'm not saying that we are working on a clock module, but...
But the new module, the big thing, what's it called? How do you pronounce it?
It's called Oneiroi.
Oneiroi. What does that word mean?
Oneiroi are creatures from the Greek mythology, are creatures that get out of their caves in night to deliver dreams and nightmares.
Oh my God, that's a great name for a module.
It is indeed. It is indeed. It is indeed.
And that, I see that's based on like the OWL platform. And obviously then you have that. I see how that could happen. How does someone go, we've got the OWL platform, now we need the module that is based on the creatures that come like at night.
Yeah, this module in particular, it's also a collaboration, let's say. So this is out of a conversation with a friend that it's from the Barcelona community. He's like this ambient drone musician. He's called Roberto. So he's been doing like these map patches since ever to do drones and ambient. And he appeared in one Superbooth and he was, hey, Roberto, what are you doing here? No, I'm getting into programming. I have like these loopers and things for the Daisy platform. So he came to us saying that he had something pure data patch, like controlling like this core and this system. I used the word synth voice before. I don't know if it will be like a system or like a thing. So he already had like this idea in mind and like a prototype working. We love the idea and we love the music he does. So we thought, hey, listen, let's do something together. So he gave us the front panel. And then with the front panel, we gave some back and forth, no need to change too much. Then the user manual, throwing into the Pasqualizer.
Yep. And there you go.
And there you go, yeah.
When I look at Befaco's modules, and I mean this in a good way, they're very varied. There's like lots of different kinds of approaches and different sorts of... It doesn't feel like you're building, here is our VCO. Here is our filter. Here is our envelope. It feels like you're being more free and open and easy in the types of modules and concepts. It doesn't have to be like, you wouldn't basically put every Befaco module into one system and then that would be the Befaco system. Do you see what I'm trying to say? It feels like you've got lots of different approaches in your modules. You're representing lots of different approaches to patching, West Coast and East Coast to simplify it, obviously, both of patching styles. But do you think about that? Have we got gaps? Should we be doing it more like this because that's not our house style? And obviously you collaborate with other people and therefore you're accepting ideas. That feels like there's a great openness to work any number of different ways. And that modules, a Befaco module could be really like a weird drone synth, or it could be a simple filter.
Yes and no. Keep in mind that we have been around for almost 15 years, like 14 years and a half, something like that.
Yeah.
At the very beginning, the initial idea of Befaco was to do a series of workshops to have a modular synth. So back then, the idea will be you need a VCO, then you need a VCF, then you need a VCA, then you need the envelope. But then at that point, things started to go like this, where booklet style things got in the way. So what I'm trying to say is that at the beginning, there was like this idea of having the Befaco system. But getting into Eurorack was kind of like a revelation. No, it's like, why do you want to have your own system where there is like this playground full of kids to play with, no? So you can be the coolest kid in the playground and be playing there alone. So it's way better to play with other kids. So then I think that the mindset kind of changed, like, okay, so you are not doing something for your own sake, for your own system, for your own environment. You are doing something for the greater good. And then in the process, when we also started to use other manufacturers' modules, then the inputs, it's way, way, way wider, where you think, okay, maybe a filter. For example, the Pony VCF that we released not long ago, after having the BF22 noisy, punkish filter for so many years. No? So let's do this utilitarian. We are also working and thinking about utilities, the brick and mortar that always get together a system, and we do them because it's needed on any system, but it's not like thinking about the Befaco system. Also, the focus always changes a little. It's way different how we are thinking now than how we were thinking 6-7 years ago, how we were thinking 14 years ago. So it makes sense to evolve and keep our minds open. Also, it's refreshing, no? Again, with this base of having fun and learning and keep on learning and keep yourself frisky. Learning new things, it's important, and getting yourself into new problems, no? Like why am I doing this? Why am I dealing with this internet personality if I was happy dealing with just myself? Because it's encouraging, and it's good that you learn new things, or maybe getting into digital modules are a pain in the arse. It's fantastic.
Really? Yeah.
Oh, fucking hell. Oops. I don't know if you can say this.
You've already said it many times, don't worry.
I know. That just realized. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. So what I'm trying to say is that it's very rewarding from a personal point of view to get yourself into new things and learning new things and getting into trouble and finding your way around in order to go through, because in the end, after learning this new thing, that passing through that new thing, you came out as a better person, I will say. I don't know if I'm getting a little bit conceptual.
Well, you can't learn, can you, if you don't do new things? How would you ever learn? Also, it seems like you're speaking to that fact, like when people see like the Onoy, then they will flip a little bit. I think they'll see it, and no one will have expected this from you, I think is the point. And I think that's all the more necessary now, where if you're going to sell something, it really has to be interesting. There has to be undeniably, and with very little justification you shouldn't need loads of marketing to convince you the idea is interesting. The module should be well designed and be like, the moment you understand it, you go, holy shit, I need that in my life. That sounds insane. But you're not afraid to do things like the Pony VCF. But is there a part of you that's like, we need to do something more bonkers, something more interesting to be better known, or to sell better, does that enter your mind?
It has passed through our mind. It actually happened in a way a couple of times where you verbalize, say, hey, man, we should slap the table and say, here we are. No, it's kind of this, I don't know if man thing, no, where you need to smash the table. Here we are. It passed through our minds. But like, hey, there is a lot of people out there. It's being in Eurorack is scary. You look around and it's full of monsters doing amazing shit. Like, wow. It's so challenging to actually stand out with all those monsters there, So that kind of things pass through our mind. We have verbalized like we should do something meaningful. But in the end, we ended up doing meaningful things without trying, or without trying too hard, or without when we were trying to do something super meaningful, what was okay. But then we release some screws and people lose their minds with our bloody screws. It's like,
your screws were really good.
What? I mean, we made them because we found them useful and we were using them for many years, and why not? But then you are putting a lot of effort, time, and resources and suffering into developing a new module, which is technically very complex, and you are really trying hard. And then you do something in an afternoon.
Make some screws. How do you get screws made? Do you just find a screw manufacturer and they're like, and you just go, I need the top bit to look like this. And they're like, we've got all of the tools. We know how to do that.
First, I'm going to give credit to Diego again here. So he was like the guy that came one morning, like 12 years ago, saying, let's do a screw which you can hand screw. But then it's going to have different... No. But back then it was only the hand screw. And it was like, oh, okay, yeah, why not? So he made a drawing with Inkscape. I don't know if you know Inkscape, an open source digital drawing program. It's for vectorial drawing. It's open source. We have been using open source software. The screws drawing was made with this open source, very simple software. If the drawing is properly done, you send it to the factory, and then they will tell you, hey, listen, this is not feasible. And then they will come with a counter drawing for you. But in this case, Diego studied, he's really into mechanics things. He was one of these blue dress guys, no, instead of a white robe. So he had like this blue thing. So he knows his mechanics. So he made a drawing and sent it to a factory, and then they sent us a big bunch of screws. I was gonna say it's not rocket science. You need to know your way around, but it's kind of simple to do a drawing and send it to a factory. The factory will do it for you. In the case of Narlis, for example, the tricky part was the washer.
Do you mean literally like the ring that's under the?
Yeah, you have the screw, because the screw can be mechanized. So you have like this huge monster machine that will like and give you lots of screws. But then the washer, they need to put it one by one.
Oh my God.
Yes.
Oh, I see the problem.
Yes. Well, no, it's not a problem.
Someone has hands.
Exactly. So that's more expensive than the screw itself. Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Because a machine to do that would be 250,000 euros or the rest, probably.
Yeah.
Do you have a module that you're sort of proudest of?
I'm super proud of the case, for example.
The new one with
the 7U case. I'm very proud on how that thing worked out, because again, it was a matter of having a 2D drawing, and then having this guy from the Befaco team as well converting into a 3D fusion thingy, and then implementing the board and doing that. That's something. That's quite something. Quite something. And module-wise, me personally, if you ask another Befaco guy, maybe we'll tell you another one. I'm really fond of the X-Mix and Expander. It's such a simple, stupid thing that you can get with a Soundcraft, but I love it. I think that X-Mix was. Look at that.
There it is.
Yeah. I remember. No, how fun were you with the send and return concept, right. Which for me it was also mind blowing, because I learned some rudimentary mixing techniques with this module because of this module, and the send and return, the pre and post send and return, for me it was like, which some people listening to this will say, of course, that's 101 mixing. I know, but it blew my mind.
Your background, what did you do before Befaco, and how did you get into synths in general? What's your sort of, why are you doing this, when you could have presumably have done anything?
I was working as IT. I was an IT guy. Networks and network supports, like wide area networks, things like, have you tried to turn off and on again, but with other nerds?
Yeah.
I started going to some noise concerts and experimental concerts. So I started seeing people performing with super collider things, lights, noise shows with lights. Like I remember with this neon light, like switching it on, and then with the on and off, and then processing it, noise things. It was like, wow. Mm-hmm. So that was my first musical appealing thing, because I don't have a musical background. I'm a nerd. So in one of these concerts, I met a guy that used to organize workshops, and then he organized a workshop for Tom Bax in Angar here in Barcelona. And then I went to the workshop saying, hey, I want to do, because my further on the past, I went to university. I did electronics in the university, but I hated it big time. So I went to IT. I moved to Amsterdam and fuck this shit. But then, thanks to this workshop, I was like, oh, wait. So all these electronic shenanigans that I was studying when I was young might allow me to do all these things I've been watching in all these crazy concerts. It's what? So yeah, I went out of that workshop and I called a friend and we plugged like this, the workshop oscillator machine from Tom Bax, a Game Boy, a Nintendo DS and a Buddha machine to a mixer.
Oh, yeah.
So that was the beginning.
What were you running on the Nintendo DS?
Electroplankton.
Excellent. Yes, I thought that might be that. Yeah.
Yes.
Did you have a favorite like game mode in that? Like I just rebought that recently to have, and a Tenori on.
Remember this one that you were like throwing this thing, so you were positioning the leads like this, so you were throwing things and they were pling, plum, plum,
and they plop into the water.
Yeah, and then plop, bloop,
bloop. Yeah.
That was my favorite by far. Then there was this other one with that they were moving from stars to stars.
Oh yeah, we like draw the path. And you can do it fast, and you can go slow.
Yeah. And then you could get them into like the. Yeah, I really like that, but by far that one, the one
like
with
the fish. Yeah, I can't remember what it was called. It was like you fired a fish and then you position the leaves so it would bounce, and every time it hit a leaf, it would make a different note. Yeah. And by positioning the leaves, it would create a different arc, which would change the timing. And
yeah. I don't remember the name. I got this game from a friend, who is working in Nintendo. He gave me like this original Japanese version one, so all the manual is in Japanese.
Yeah, in the blue box.
Yeah.
Like it's Toshio Iwai is the guy who is like, I think he's predominantly like a musician and a noise artist. And I don't know, I'd love to talk to him. Like, how on earth did Nintendo and you hook up and you created a music system? In a twisted, weird way, it's like music hardware. Because the DS is a physical thing, and you were designing something that was like a physical contraption. Yeah. Could have been, in a way, it could have been a real thing, but it existed in the game. It's so amazing.
For me, I think Electroplankton is the first reference or one of the first 3 references of Nintendo DS. So it feels like a technical demo, proof of concept. I think that someone very clever or visionary said, okay, we are going to contact this musician and we are going to ask him, okay, why don't you use Nintendo DS capabilities in order to do a musical toy? Because also there was this one that you had to blow into the speaker, or there was like this looper that you were recording, you could touch. So it felt like a very, very, very beautiful proof of concept, I think. And whoever thought about that and contacted this guy will need a very well-deserved credit.
Yeah, exactly. And you wonder, did it have a great deal of impact? And I think it's one of those things where the answer is, in a grand scale, no. But for the people who it was important for, it was probably very important. Like, it sounds like, obviously, if it was one of 3 things that you had, then I don't know, surely it has to rub off in some way. Did you made music with that, a Buddha machine, the little red one with the...
It was orange.
Was it?
It was orange, yeah.
I had one. I had a red one. And it's one of those, when you own objects and then suddenly 20 years later you go, where the fuck's the thing I owned? Where's it gone? You just like, I lost it at some point.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan. I have all of them. I purchased all of them. And then I went to their Bandcamp and I purchased all the loops. And then I have all those loops in a radio music, in 2 radio music modules, and I'm using those sounds every single time I perform.
Oh, so nice!
That's a good thought. It's coming all the way from there. So I bought like this Buddha machine. I remember this friend of mine in the office back in my days. So she had like this Buddha machine there in the desk.
And like IT support.
Yeah.
Just like after a particularly difficult call, just click that button.
and then putting that and then having that in loop, it was a great impact. So as soon as I had the opportunity, I bought one. Way before even thinking about using it in a musical way, just buying the object and getting it because it was nice. So when I came back with the workshop oscillator machine, it's like, okay, what do we have? So workshop oscillator machine, a Buddha machine, the Nintendo DS, Electroplankton, and then my mate with a Game Boy and I think he was using back then the Game Boy camera that has like this music software.
I haven't seen that.
Yeah. So the Game Boy camera, it has not only the camera, but also had like this music thing.
Yeah.
It's like a musical toy. So yeah, it was very naive. It was just like let's grab a beer and let's plug these things in.
I mean, it is very important, from my understanding, that at the early stages of your musical practice, that it's kept fun. And, it's not meant to be like, start practicing 5 hours a day. It's not fun anymore. Like, no, it's meant to be fun. You're supposed to enjoy yourself. Otherwise, you give up because you think, this isn't fun. It's too hard work. So you need that period where you're allowed to be free and just enjoy yourself. And if you want, then you could start to have a more rigorous practice and do it, not as a job, but just that, yeah. So I fully endorse this approach.
Yeah, and also very fond of the DIY approach. Naive, if you listen to the crap we were doing. But, it was an artistic expression. It was learning how to do by doing. Opening machines. I can see a speak and spell there on the back. Getting a speak and math. Opening the speak and math and making it do crazy shit. I still have my speak and math around that. So, yeah, coming back to the conversation back like 10 minutes ago. So I think that this interconnection, this technical and artistic interconnection and the willingness to learn all the time, it was what got us all started. I'm talking about myself. I could tell you Pascual's stories and Diego's stories. So all of them were so similar. It was like, I need to learn this in order to do this. And just getting yourself into huge trouble. and yeah. So, yeah.
When did you first make like Eurorack modules? I probably should say, when did you first encounter like a Eurorack synth? And then how do you get to the point where you actually build modules for that thing?
I think it was after the first Befaco workshop. As I say at the beginning, the Befaco workshop was like, okay, let's build a modular synth. And after 1 year, we are going to have a modular synth. So back then, the idea was to have like a 3U modules with plus and minus 15 and banana jacks.
Inspired by Brug brand, I guess. Or you were
of course. Exactly. The Diego. I attended to the workshop, but then Tom made this demo of his modular the evening after that. I couldn't attend, but Diego did attend. We didn't know each other back then. And he saw the back brand system like small, portable, with the best connector ever, the banana. And Diego back then, he did already build or was building at the moment a 5U music from outer space synth. They call it the coffin. You can imagine.
Coffin.
Yeah, it was like this huge fly case full of 5U modules. It was a freaking coffin. So watching Tom Back's super mega portable system was like a wow. Look at that.
You don't need all that stuff.
Exactly. You don't need to be carrying a coffin with you. You can have a travel case. So that was an inspiration for sure. But the thing is that after then deciding, okay, 3U and this and that, and then someone asked, but will this be compatible with Eurorack? And it was like, okay, maybe the module it's not gonna tune. Then instead of banana, you can put mini jacks. So maybe. But then it was, so this person came back, said, hey, but this will not fit. Then in the second workshop, hey, but this will not fit into a Eurorack case. And then, discovering the classical problems that the 3U, it's not from the inside of the rails, but from center to center. So that was...
Yeah. Damn it.
Almost. No, it's way worse, no? When you hit the what do you call it in soccer, no? When you hit the boot, no, bang, instead of... So you miss for so little, it's always... So yeah, that was the first approach, because this was, again, super naive. Let's do the Befaco system, which is going to be bananas and it's going to be super cool. And then this person said, but this will not fit into the Eurorack. So after that, then the right size was taken in consideration. So models will fit in. And after the third or fourth workshop, the workshops were meant to be once every month. But then, of course, it wasn't realistic just to design and produce one module a month. It was like
with no experience.
Yeah, exactly. Guys, you're a bit crazy. Back in the days, I started attending the workshops. So I was kind of an attendee. I was already doing my things and designing little noises, but I wanted to be part of this thing. Like you guys are so crazy, I want to be a part of this. Count me in. So after the third or fourth workshop, then they started with the mini jack version, and then the connector on the back was completely different. So at some point, more people were talking about this Eurorack thing. Back then, we are talking about the year 2010.
Yeah.
I don't remember how many manufacturers were out there. Maybe 4MS.
Tip-top, IntelliGel, 4MS,
yeah,
Plan B.
something like that. Like
Dupfer. Yeah.
10 manufacturers, maybe. So, and then at some point, the movement towards Eurorack was kind of a thing. Then after the first year, but because the workshop were started here in Barcelona, and it was us, like a group of people. But then workshops started to go to London and to Berlin, to Madrid first. And then more people were doing them, and especially in London and Berlin, people were talking about Eurorack. And then it was, okay, so let's change voltages. Now, at the beginning, it was like conversions for all the modules to convert from plus and minus 15 to plus and minus 12. And then at some point, it was, okay, let's move toward plus and minus 12. Let's move, the size was already good. And then the mini jacks. The mini jack was a big drama in a way for us users of Banana and DIY things.
So had you got like a system by this point? Had you built, and who was organizing? Because you were attending, but it wasn't you. You weren't organizing these events.
No, it was Diego and Jano. Jano, it's the guy that left. So they were organizing the workshops, but they were like two dudes willing to do something wild. So they decided to do kind of like a crowdfunding. So we were paying in advance. So they will do the designs and order the PCBs. And then, okay, guys, the PCBs are here, so we can do the workshop. This is the date. And then the day of the...
You were getting a pretty good rate for a module, and you were all, and it was a community. So quite an interesting way. I've not heard of it done this way.
Totally. It was a bunch of people getting together. It was very horizontal, which was very rewarding and very satisfying. Like going to a workshop, especially me coming from university, going to a workshop and finding people like you, people that went on partying the night after and are on the workshop a little bit like this, or talking about music and talking about bullshit in general terms. And then seeing that the guys that are organizing the workshop, they were playing an open, saying, hey, listen, so this oscillator, what we did is we took Ray Wilson's oscillator. It's Ray Wilson's oscillator. And then what we did in each output of, we put a VCA in each of the waveforms. And then in the end, there is a summing. And then all the files were there, and we could poke into them and check and see, and then use them. It was super nice because, on my side, I was getting back into this and learning, and I was already doing workshops, and I was doing my PCBs and things. So having these people close by, being so open about the information, but not only me, but everyone that was there, we were like super nerds. And so, yeah, it was a feeling of community.
It's like an incubator. I'm almost thinking of
big time. Yeah, and try to imagine. So we go to this workshop, we so anticipated workshop. Yeah, we are gonna be doing this, and then we do our oscillator and we design our own front panel, super nice. And then you find yourself with an oscillator there on a shelf, looking at you. No,
going,
nothing. No power supply, no case.
Okay.
And then doing the next workshop was the filter. And then the same thing, we pay in advance, the filter, then the PCBs arrive, the PCBs are fact, we need to do some fixing, cutting, which was part of the thing, like fixing the design and changing values. Say there is a last minute change of value, blah, blah, blah. You finish your filter, wow, so cool, and you put it on the shelf close to the oscillator. And it's like, okay, now I have an oscillator and a VCF looking at me. And at some point, the guys, so the conversation was like, okay, and what do we do with them? And it was like, okay, you build a power supply and use them. How do I do the power supply? So there was not even a plan about doing a power supply. Okay. So at some point, after having the second or third module, it was like, okay, let's do like a sub workshop and let's do a power supply and let's do a case. I remember going to a hardware store and buying a tools case and then buying some L-shaped metallic things and drilling. You can imagine, no, how planned the thing was. It was, let's build synths. The original Befaco system, it's still there in the original case. It's still functioning, it's still there. I don't use it too much. But sometimes I plug it and it gives me a lot of comfort.
Yeah, like an old teddy bear.
Yeah, exactly. A sonic teddy bear.
But where do we get to the point where you've joined this cohort and it becomes a company that makes products? Well, I don't remember that even happening because it feels like Befaco just sort of slowly crept into existence, like snuck up on me. I was like, oh.
That kind of like...
Yeah, just like, hi.
It happened on a natural progression way, but it feels natural in a way. The workshops were growing, more cities in parallel. So it was me and Pascual, we were doing our things, but then we were doing things with Befaco. We were sharing the space in Hangar. It was kind of like this. And at some point, if you are doing workshops as the main source of thing, or not only income, but the way of Befaco is workshop, and you are doing Barcelona, Madrid, London, and Berlin, you need to do 2 workshops a month. So you spend 1 week like preparing the workshop and resting from the workshop, then 1 week kind of in Barcelona while you are preparing for the next workshop. So let's say that it was needed that we were more people doing more things. So if someone was going to a workshop, someone will need to be doing things. Things started to be a little bit more thoughtful rather than wild. And at the beginning, it was bags full of components and a paper. At some point, Steve from Thunk reached out saying, hey, I would like to sell your kits. And we had to say no. It's like, who the hell is going to be willing to buy this bag full of components? So it was kind of like, you cannot sell this shit.
Do you mean it was not good enough or it was just too much work?
Both. Right. Both. It was too much work, and then we sold a couple of I think that one of the first kits we sold, it was to this guy. How's the name? This Rex guy.
Rex the dog.
Rex the dog, exactly.
He's literally called Rex the dog. Yeah, he's an amazing
dog. There you go. So he was one of the first guys that bought a kit from us, and he received the kit, and he was very happy and very helpful and very nice guy. But it was a mess. I mean, like trying to figure out the components, and this is missing, and this not, and then the front panel, and ironing the panel. You know, it was, although this person and another person were happy nerding out, but it's not a pleasant thing for them. It's not a pleasant thing for you to prepare. It's not sustainable. All the process was slowly like, okay, the kits should be better, improve the documentation, translate the documentation to English.
The closest thing I have to this is I did a Turing machine like in 2012. And it was kind of like, you had to fill in the panel yourself and put the paint in and source the parts. There was no and the instructions were like 5 posts that you had to sort of corroborate into one.
Yeah.
It's not, I get it. As soon as Thonk started making it where everything was organized for you, I was just like, this is for me. That's what I want. I want it. I want Lego, basically. I want it's because it's more fun. I mean,
That's what we have been learning on the process. Not us being ultra nerds, like hardcore DIYers. We were drilling the front panels in each workshop. So the thing is, not everybody is going to find joy in all the processes on creating a musical instrument. Some people will like, okay, listen, I prefer to buy it assembled and make music.
Yeah.
Learning, also with workshops and the open days in Hangar, that the world is full of different people. There are some people there that will enjoy a hardcore DIY, but some people will enjoy a Sunday afternoon build, a pleasant Sunday afternoon build, and then offering people the option to buy them assembled. Now, at some point, we found a local provider here in Barcelona that will doing white front panels from us, like kick-ass front panel, like beautiful. We made the BF22 and the ADSR with the front panels, and then we were offering them to shops, and it was good. It was a learning process, sending the first batch of assembled modules to some shops, and the shops saying, guys, what the fuck is this? No, we were packaging it by hand with tape. It was very naive and very beautiful, but some shops were saying like, then they were, okay, I think we are gonna be sending this back to you, and then this shop was sending back models to us properly packaged. So this was something in a way harsh, but in a way very I'm thankful for. No, it was a very cheeky but nice ways of telling you.
More like this, please.
Yes.
Yeah, it sounds like you learned everything the hard way, and you did it collectively. You taught each other, and you listened, and you were listened to, and it's interesting.
It's brute force in a way, and spirit on the other way. I don't know. It's just like willingness to do and not getting too sour because someone it's giving you a hard review. It's like, okay, I learned.
Well, you have to sort of leave your ego at the door, I think, just to. And I guess you've always started from very humble beginnings. You knew that you had a lot to learn, and there's no pretensions about that. It's not like
no. And we are still learning. I mean, it's this Oneiroi monster. It's learning all the collaborations all the time, and it's rewarding. And maybe we are going to be losing some hair. But it's rewarding.
Wow, yeah. What about, you're still running the workshops as well? Like I saw, is that right? Diego was in like London. Is that right? Yeah. I didn't realize that the workshops were the start of it. I don't realize that story.
And we are doing fewer workshops than we wanted. I mean, it's not only our background and our beginnings, but it's what make us happy. It's like sharing time with people and fooling around, and it's this feeling of community where people see you and listen to you and really know you, and then you know them, and you get opinions and you get ideas, and you can see people's suffering firsthand. You can.
In a good way.
No, yeah, dude, because you're at home and you are setting your shit on post and you don't know what's the real struggle of people at home. And maybe you get an email and say, man, another email. That could happen, no? If you are away from your users. So doing the workshops, it's to truly understand and see them and then having a drink and talking and laughing. It's although we are not doing it as often as we used to, in one side because Befaco is growing as a huge monster, and in the other side because we are 14 years older, our life is getting way more complicated for obvious reasons, age and family and life, and it's harder to do as many workshops as we used, but we do our best.
What is next for you? Do you have a direction, in as much as you could share thoughts about such a thing?
Finding balance. Coming back to the beginning, no, where we are theorizing on how to do things sustainable in many levels, in sustainable as a thoughtful company that it's not this shark mentality of ever growing things. From a personal and mental point of view, where we still need to be creative and happy about it, and we want to be here forever. As a size point of view, as an idea point of view, and useful point of view. No, in the end, you need to be offering meaningful things that people will find interesting. So I think that the goal for the next couple of years on Befaco is to find balance. It's and I think that we are in a very good path. No, keep on doing interesting things, keep on doing the fuck we want, pay salaries.
Yes.
You know, not getting mad in the process. I will say. No, again, it's been rough few years for a lot of people around us and for us as well. And you are seeing friends falling, and you don't want to go that way. So I think that the direction of Befaco, it's balance.
Yeah. What is the future of music technology?
What a question!
I know, right?
I think following with the sustainability conversation, I think that's the future. I don't think that ever growing and ever packing things a retraction on the needs of people instead of willing to have loads of things at home, like collecting. I will see a more reasonable middle ground thing. In the Eurorack, for example, or in the synth scene in general, it's like it seems that the general thing is to stuff new things, more stuff. I think that we are going to a balancing of using whatever you've got on a more meaningful way and getting more out of what you already have. You know, there has been like this run away from the computer, run away from the software thing, which is totally normal, I can understand. But then finding balance, it's like, okay, my good old computer is still here and my good old manners are still there. Let's make them fit on this new thing, this DOLES jamming. Good. I do DOLES all the time. I don't know how to use Bitwig or Ableton. Well, I kind of, but you know what I mean. I think that the future, it's a mixed future. When everybody ran away from analog to embrace digitals, and then when everybody ran away from hardware to embrace computer, and then people are running away from computer to embrace back the hardware they let go, but much more expensive. So I think that the next step, it's like balancing things out, I think.
Definitely software manufacturers are, you can see all of the concessions that are putting into software to help it work with hardware. And I am sure that the software companies are learning lessons from what the hardware companies are doing and vice versa. I mean, we're seeing, for example, you can buy an Arturia, Mini Freak, and it's got Platts oscillators in it as an example of this sort of, feedback loop that's occurring. And I think it also has features within it that are quite inspired by the world of Eurorack and stuff. It's got noise engineering stuff in it, but that's just one company. I'd be interested, whether there will be more of that kind of thing. But I see what you're saying, that we have a kind of hybrid way of working where the software sort of respects us more, and makes it.
Yeah, and then realizing and embracing that every tool that you use has its strengths and weaknesses. Like, running away from the computer is not necessarily good. It's your mastermind. It's the best brain you can get for a system. And okay, I agree. Windows is gonna decide to update in the middle of your gig. Okay, but you know what I mean. It has its positive things, and hardware has its positive things, and Eurorack, and this mix of things. So I think that we all are gonna be moving to this system. We have seen, no, like all these fundamentalists of hardware or fundamentalists of Eurorack. I only perform with Eurorack. I get my Eurorack case. I'm one of those. But I think that also the hardware that we are seeing lately, we are seeing compact computers more and more, like having this message that say, but that's a computer. It's like, yeah, but with one function. So it's like, okay, it's a computer on a shape of a keyboard with a suite of VSTs inside at a very reasonable price. What do you want to do? I want to play all these instruments on my stage. Here you go. Or you want to have like this Akai thing with all your samples and all your things with your pads. And so, okay, it's a computer with, it's a MIDI controller with a computer. It's a computer with a MIDI controller. It's both things. I'm not saying that these products are good or bad or whatever, but I think it's also a hint of what's happening, no? Like this hybridization of both worlds. Not sure if that's the way to go or what's going to be the way, but I do believe that the hybridization, it's what's going to be ahead of us.
Amen. Well, thank you very much.
My pleasure.
Yes, mate. Not either doorless or purely in the box, but a weird mishmash of the two. You know, that's how you'll get the most amount out of the least amount of stuff, because you have the best tape machine in the world in a computer. And a computer as a multi-track device means that just one piece of equipment or one very small modular can do all of the parts of the orchestra. It's obvious, but the simple fact is it allows you to make music with less. While that's obvious, I think it's just worth reminding ourselves. And so thanks, Manu, for reminding me. And it's that thing, one of my favorite things I've ever seen people do with videos I make, demos of things, is to think, I'm not necessarily going to buy that thing that you've made the demo of, but it's given me ideas. There's an idea in there that I can take and apply. Either I create a Max MSP patch that does a similar thing, or actually there's some techniques or concepts that I can apply to other gear. I think that's the best thing ever. I just did a demo of the Anna 2 from Mystic Circuits, which is this bizarre kind of logic module where you can logicify any type of signal. So you can do max and min operations on audio and get this other like weird waveform out. And that's really interesting. And someone replied and they were like, oh, awesome. I have the IntelliGel. I forget the name of it, but is it Micro Mod? But IntelliGel did a 2-channel version that has max and min. And they were like, oh, I'll try that on that. I'm like, that's the point. You can take ideas and just use what you already have. Or if you don't have that thing, how close could you get? How close could you get? Yeah. Very interesting. I think also his thing about just getting outside your comfort zone and being open to learning new things. Also, obvious? I don't know though. And I definitely feel this. Do you get that thing where you're like, I'm worried that I'm ossifying, that word, to become like bone, you know, where you feel that you've kind of gone and just stopped at a certain point. It's something that really worries me. It's really important that I also am learning. Otherwise, there's going to be a point where there's just nothing left to give. A willingness to learn and not be too sour. They worked it all out the hard way. And they had companies, you know, shops that they sold gear to, tell them, you've done this wrong. You've packed this badly. This is not good. And a willingness to just go, no, you're right. and leave your ego at the door, I think is really commendable. One could feel defensive. It's easy to feel defensive. But I mean, it's clear like Befaco just kind of learned by doing with true passion, and also this commitment to continue doing workshops, because those were the very things that nourished them to start with and still do. And they get wonderful feedback from it. So it's really interesting. May you remain sustainable, as it is a hard time to be a music technology brand, even if things aren't bad. So my hats go off to them. I went to Superbooth and I tried the Befaco Onoy, which is their new, bizarre, mega ambient voice system. Because it's not really fair to call it a voice. It's more like an entire little modular synth in one panel. And it's really good. Like, I mean, I only had 5 minutes with it. If you want to hear what I did, there's a video that I made, a kind of weird Superbooth sort of stream of consciousness video, which you can find on my YouTube channel, which is called My Weird Video About Superbooth, something like that. And basically, I've really enjoyed just taking my phone out, filming loads of little clips of like mad moments as they happened, and also bits of gear that I got to try, doing a weird stream of consciousness edit where it's like you were with me. It's all of the like odd little funny, strange, interesting, profound, silly moments from my 5 days in Berlin. And part of that was trying the Onoy. I thought it sounded nuts, like really just huge, cataclysmic, beautiful, strange, bizarre thing. And with a lovely like reverb and a looper so that you can loop within the voice. Like the voice, the synth itself has a looper built in. Like what other synth other than like the Korg micro sampler has like a looper? And I think even with the micro sampler, isn't it like just like a delay line? And who's that amazing artist who works with the Korg micro sampler? Excuse me. Oh, of course. The artist is Dakim, Dakim. Can't remember if I mentioned Dakim on this before. There is a Boiler Room it's Dakim, Dakim, Boiler Room, Los Angeles live set is the video from a solid 10 years ago. I love the video. I've just got it in front of me, where it starts and there's just like a room of people and some gear on the table, and there's a hint of a modular, which is from another set. And this man just walks in with like his hand in his pockets and just kind of walks up to the Korg micro sampler, and this other like boss, I think is SP404, one of the like, well, I think it's an SP505. It's like one of the Korg boss looper things. And he just casually just makes this super dirty, freaked, like odd, simple, loopy, hip-hop, crunchy mush. And it's done completely on the fly and off the cuff using, I believe, the delay, Anyway, watch that Boiler Room live set as a good example of a person doing a hell of a lot, completely flying by the seat of their pants and doing something totally unique and unapologetically themselves and brilliant. It's really good. Do more with less. No door, though. You can do it on a DAW. Your computer is the greatest looper ever, so just use what you have and make some blinking, blonking music. If you are enjoying this, please consider sponsoring on Patreon. That would be patreon.com/Mylar Melodies for the price of a coffee, or less than a coffee, depending on where you get your coffees. You can support the making of Why We Bleeps and enjoy your bleep every month with coffee. I'll make you a coffee. If you come round, I'll make you a coffee so that you're just paying for the bleeps. So yeah, please do consider. It is not growing very much, as I mentioned last month, but it's okay. And it would be really good if it was. I do realise that times are quite hard, so no sweat if you can't. Tell your friends. That is free. Tell your friends, share this episode. Ask people, my goodness, why don't you listen to this podcast? To those of you I met at Superbooth and received Why We Bleep stickers, I salute you. Thank you. for listening, for all the positive things that you have said. Superbooth, by the way, it was the greatest event ever. It was a wonderful, wonderful time. And if you watch that video, that's the sort of the vibe. It's like that. It's really, really fun. If you haven't considered going to Superbooth, I strongly urge you to consider it next year. Berlin is wonderful. Superbooth is wonderful. It's wonderful. This industry is wonderful. Manu, you're wonderful. Thank you, Manu. Thank you, Befaco, for being awesome. Thank you, Signal Sounds. And thank you, Thonk, for not only supporting Befaco and selling their products early on, but also sponsoring this episode of the podcast. Truly, the most integrated ad of all is that Thonk just are a brilliant company that are helping sort of grow little companies in the industry, including Befaco, by selling their kits. Get some kits, build some stuff, and that's all. Thanks for your attention. We will return next month with another chat. See you soon. Be well.